Okay, campers, good morning. I hope this finds you well and rested. This video is probably going to be about a half hour. So if you don't already have a little breakfast or lunch or a snack or something, go get that now because this is the how to find research. Usually this is a whole class period that we take to do this together. And I'm just doing it on my own, so it does take a little bit of time. So please watch all the way through. Let's get started. Okay, so let me start sharing. And okay, so this week's assignment, this assignment for the next week and a half or so, is going to be here in our research unit, and we're going to come down here to evidence gathering organizer. You can see it's kind of faded because I haven't actually shared it with you yet, but when you go to it, you'll be there just fine. And I created this little document for us, and I know it works because I just tried it. There it is. But I created this document because now your next step, now that you've gotten some feedback on your research project topic, your next step is to go through and start gathering evidence, okay? You are also going to notice that your that your research topic is going to change slightly. For almost everybody, it needs to change slightly. But you'll find that that's actually a really natural part of the research project, is for your topic to shift as you're going through and finding research and everything like that. You also want to make this, as easy on yourself as you can. So if your initial topic is providing not enough or too many sources, then just go back and change it. I don't know if you can hear that, but my dog's having his breakfast. He's a loud eater. That's okay. So gathering evidence, going through and finding these sources, it does take a lot of reading. So this is something that is going to it's going to take you a little bit of time to do. And while you will need to read and understand and annotate these resources sooner than later, what you're doing right now is called academic skimming, because you're going to be going through and finding a whole bunch of different resources, and you want to see like what is actually worth your time, what is useful to you, what is not. There are some smart ways to do it. You can read the entire article, but some of these articles, especially these academic articles, which I'll get to, like journal articles, they could be, a dozen, 20 pages long. So you want to see if you can find any summaries or abstracts. An abstract is a summary of just a much larger piece, just so you know. Always looking for things that are bolded, like headings, subheadings, stuff like that. Always looking at visuals to see. And like I said, we call this academic skimming, and it's just going to make your job a lot easier, okay? So remember, this is a project. We're building up to different phases of this project. What you're doing now is you are building up to what's called the annotated bibliography. I've provided the link for you here. Basically, we are asking you to evaluate sources in a very detailed manner. So you can click on that and see what an annotated bibliography is, but you don't need to be thinking about it quite yet, only that I want you to be making sure that you're choosing like good quality, credible sources, okay? You're using 3 sources for your annotated bibliography. You're using a minimum of 3 more for your actual research writing, which again, we'll get to that later. So for the purpose of this document, I'm asking for a minimum of 10 sources that you are finding about your topic. And as you can see, I just made a little table here for us. And this is really just for you to keep yourself organized so that things don't get lost. Okay, because that's the hard part about gathering evidence is you find really good stuff and sometimes you lose it. Okay, there are a myriad of different sources that you can use. Sources include reputable news sources. I'll get to that in just a second. Academic journals, documentaries as long as they're more than 30 minutes long, infographics, and textbooks. Now, for good research, you want a variety of sources. So you want some stuff from reputable news sources. You want maybe a documentary. You want a combination of things. At minimum, I need you to have like 2 different kinds of sources. So you can't have just like 10 infographics. Like that's not, that's not great. And even infographics, be careful about those because usually at the bottom, if they're good, it has the source of all the information at the bottom. So you can take a look there. I'm so sorry, I just woke up like, well, no, an hour ago. Okay, let's talk about what reputable means. If you click on this link, I've provided this for you in the research folder as well. This is called the Media Bias Chart, and this is an organization that's been around for about 10 years or so. It's a completely nonpartisan, just objective, kind of fact-checky type organization that kind of ranks, as you can see, all the major news sources where we get, a lot of our crazy news from in this world. I really like it because I think it just kind of really clearly sets out bias and reliability. If we think back to Ethos, Pathos, Logos, now we are in the realm of ethos, right? We're in the realm of logos. We're making sure that what we're using is reputable. So these are all news sources, okay? Your goal is to be, in my opinion, almost completely in this green box right up here. Because as you can see, in the green box is the most reliable for news. All of these are, kind of like accepted sources for news. They are correct. They're not very biased. They're right here in the middle, as you can tell. And then as you kind of like move out on the spectrum, you can start to see more liberally biased news sources, more conservative news sources over here, some of which are pretty infamous, sorry, with, oh, my doggy wants to be a part of a lecture today, but I don't have time for that. But some of them you can see are pretty notorious. Like most of us have heard of like what InfoWars is, the National Enquirer, who do we got over here? Daily Kos, right? Occupy Democrats. None of those are good, okay? Like they're maybe entertaining and they maybe fuel our hate fire for a particular group of people, but they're not good for research, so you are not allowed to use them, okay? There are some things that work in this kind of like yellowish kind of middle box in here, but like I said, we are for sure looking for this green box. So those are news sources, okay? And then like I said, that link is available to you. Wikipedia and Google are never sources. So like I use Wikipedia like everybody else. I look something up real quick. But then you have to make sure that what you're, stop. Then you have to make sure that you're going to the bottom of that Wikipedia source and looking for the links, looking for the sources that were used. That is a way to do it, right? And you can't just say like, according to Google, like that's not a thing that exists. So make sure, oh my God, make sure you're not doing that. I'll get to this when I explain how to find the research, but make sure whatever sources you're using are fully accessible to you. Like you can download them because we do still need to annotate these sources. So you need to make sure that you can at least get them into PDF format, okay? So what you're gonna do for this little tool down here, oh, and remember you're doing two different kinds of research writing. The first is just very factual, objective reporting, like what is your issue, what's the history of it, who's involved, what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. And then you're going into the what efforts are being taken to rectify, to fix this issue, how effective are they, a little bit of subjective writing right there. I've provided an example for you. If I were interested in, say, Catalonia's bid for independence from Spain, that's where like Barcelona is up at the top of the country, I would put the name of that source. So this is from BBC World News. I would say that this source gives background and history of the issue, and I would provide just the link. All you're doing is providing the links over here. We're going to deal with MLA citations later, okay? This document is going to be due next week on your quote-unquote day of class. So this is actually a document that you're working on for just about the next week and a half or so, almost 2 weeks. No, week and a half. And you're going to go through, and this will be due at 2 p.m. On the day that your class is due. I have that direction here on this week's agenda, okay? So if you're in 4th and 5th period, a little bit like the document from this week, I suppose technically, but if you're in 4th and 5th period, it'll be due by 2 p.m. During your class, and this is the week of the 6th, you guys, okay? It'll be due on the Wednesday. If you're in 6th and 7th, it'll be due on the Thursday, but of course I'll be reminding you of that, so no worries there. Okay, so now where do we find the research? And that's what takes us a little bit of time to do. So if we come back to our main screen, you know, I'm actually not minding the way that Schoology is organized. I'm getting used to it. And I like that I can put things in different folders based on time or topic or stuff like that. Anyway, okay, so let's go to our social injustice website. And you come down here to databases. Yes, yes. Okay, so databases are search engines, like Google, or remember Bing? Anyway, but they're search engines, but for academic research. Okay, and this is going to teach us how to go through the 4 main databases that we use. Some of you are already familiar with these. But we'll go through and learn how to use a couple of them. I'm not going to teach you every single one because that would be painful for everybody, but they all work relatively the same way. The first thing I need to show you is, because you're doing this research from home, on a couple of these databases, you are going to need to enter information to get into them. Just a username and a password, and then you'll be fine to be able to get in. So just make sure you're paying attention to that. If it says you don't have access, you do. You just have to come back to this page. Okay, so what do I really like? I really like Gale and EBSCO, and so I think I'll show you those two today. And if we come over here to Gale, all of the animals are in the living room, and they're all talking to each other. Go up there. Good girl. Right. Okay, so Gale. Now I've already logged in, which is why this is allowing me access, right? But you can go through, and as you can quickly see that, you know, it's going to give you highlights of things that are happening around the world, specific to region. Remember I told you a little bit about region and stuff like that. So this is a kind of good source to start with. I also really like the browse map. And this is where, again, you can zoom in on a map and it tells us some issues that are going on. I like browse issues over here. Very obviously, this is where you can like look at things on a you know, kind of big level. Or click on famine and starvation here. Gives us a little bit of information about like, you know, what that is, obviously, but then some featured content about what's going on in that specific topic area. Okay, so this is how you're going to find, again, some very specific articles and sources about that. What I also really like is when we come up here and let's say I put in a global issue like climate change. See, it already tells me where do I want to talk about climate change. Let's talk about Antarctica, because that's very certainly non-US, right? But like I said, now I'm going to come in and I'm going to start to see some different kinds of sources. So if we come over here and click on academic journals, for example, academic journals are like academic magazines, if you want to think of it that way, okay? The American Psychiatric Association has a journal. The, you know, environmentalism in California has a journal. I don't know, kind of stuff like that. I belong to two different teacher journals that I read and get ideas and see latest research from. So journals are, you know, what academics are writing. So this comes from the Journal of International Affairs. This comes from the journal Arctic. This comes from Frontiers in Ecology and Evolution. And this is very different kind of writing right here, because it's very dense. It's very, you know, well, academic is kind of it. And it's a different kind of reading for sure, but you can also see really quickly that's a very different kind of data set as well. There's some really amazing stuff in here. Before you even get there though, I wanna make sure that you're always clicking peer-reviewed journals. This just means peer-reviewed that kind of the whole field, the whole, you know, group of people that research that topic. It just means that they're all reading and agreeing and using that data that's been used. Okay, you can see over here there's a filter of even narrowing down your research topic by publication date, by title, by subject. Lexile measure is actually pretty important. Lexile measure, and you can see these numbers here, it basically talks about your reading level, okay? So if you are somebody that does have reading difficulties or reading challenges, then it's okay. I'm telling you, it's okay to click some of these like 5 to 7, 6 to 8, you know, boxes down here. If you don't click any, then it means you're just going to get everything. But especially for those of you that do have some challenges in that area, it's okay to click some of these lower ones. It's just going to make it easier to kind of like, you know, absorb and understand. Kind of the same thing over here. This makes it much easier right there. All right. Naturally, you guys are, you know, kind of in these level 3, 4, 5 areas right here, because you're pretty amazing. One last thing I want to show you for Gale is you start the topic finder. And this is for those of us, myself included, that are like visual learners, right? And this can just kind of help you narrow in that idea of what it is that you're looking for your specific topic. What it does, you know, because we started off by saying, you know, Antarctica and kind of stuff like that, and maybe you're interested in the sea ice specifically. So if you come in here, as you can see, it's going to give us some more specifics, if you want to learn about, I don't know, the caribou, it'll bring us to some very specific articles and things like that about how caribou in the Arctic, in this case, are being affected. I think it's a pretty neat kind of tool right here for you to use. It's in this kind of tile form or in this kind of wheel form. It's just kind of fun to click around and get lost in kind of a research hole this way. It's kind of interesting work. So do check that out. I think that'll get you some good stuff there. Okay, but let's really quickly go back and let's find an example source that we have found. Oh, let's bring it back. And it's the last day of Women's Issues Month, so we can explore this topic a little bit more. And like I said, lots of things are down here. And let's say we're doing research on the rights of Muslim women or something like that, or how women in Saudi Arabia can now legally drive. Yes, that is a thing. I mean, it's ridiculous to think about, but it is very true. So if we were to click on that issue again, it's going to bring us to, looks like an interview, which are also totally good sources, right? This is going to bring us down here at the bottom. It is going to bring us to our citation. So you are welcome to put this in addition to where I'm asking you to put the link, right? But when it comes to the link itself, you should be able to, I think what I want is right over here at the top, is get the link to this, okay? And this is what you're gonna cut and paste into that research organizer, your evidence organizer, all right? So play around with that. Let's get back to our website here. We can check out EBSCO. EBSCO I'm much more familiar with. Please log in again. And, oh, see, this is where I have to come back here. I have to look up EBSCO and Homestead Library 100%. Oh, see, I already saved it. Okay. EBSCO again kind of gives us some different databases, really easy to use. I'll point out the English Language Learner database because I got lots of ELL students and all kinds of different things in here. Let's click on the just the research databases for EBSCO. And okay, so this looks like a search engine. This looks like a Google to some degree, right? You just like enter words here. But for sure, I want you to come here to advanced search because this is how you're going to kind of narrow down your topic so that you're getting what you want. Two things I want you to click for sure. I want you to make sure you're clicking on full text. That means you have access to the entirety of everything that's being brought up to you. And I want you to click on peer reviewed. Okay, just like I said before, that just means it's something that is out there being used, people are agreeing with. That's kind of our goal right there. And then you can come up here. And so now you're going to put in sorry, now you're going to come up here. I'll just put in my climate change again. Very broad topic. Right, so you can see that you're getting like 61,000 hits right here, and that's a lot to go through, okay? This is where, again, you want to make sure that you are playing around with things like limiting the dates of these. So I can bring this in to make it where the you know, the oldest source I'm going to get is from 2020 or from 2000. That brings it down a little bit because because climate change is pretty new, right? Um, but I can also limit that to just journals and academic journals. And that starts to bring us down a little bit more. There's a lot of different things that you can click on. And the big thing is by just limiting what it is you're searching for. So climate change in the Philippines. If I spell things correctly. Okay, see, that's an example of how that's not a great search because I only have one right here, right? Which is fine. So climate change, I actually prefer semicolon, Southeast Asia. Right, so now we get, again, just a whole bunch of different topics and hits that kind of come up. Again, I'm still looking with this, these limitations over here. But these are the things that you're going to go through and you have to kind of like read. You can see that when you do get sources, you get them a couple of different ways. You get what's called a PDF full text. You for sure want to look at those. And this is going to take you to kind of literally what this source would look like if you belong to this particular journal. I think this comes from, yes. The abstract, again, this is what's going to tell you what the entire source is about, okay? So if you read this paragraph, then you'll be able to get an idea of what the whole source is about. But then you start going through and you start reading, and we're not quite at the point yet where you need to necessarily be reading these things. This is our next step. But this is what it looks like, okay? And this is something that you're able to save. That way you actually have it. You can get the link to it over here. All kinds of different sources for you. So do be checking those out. We do try to make this, and EBSCO in particular tries to make it to where this stuff is really easy for you to get a handle of, okay? This takes time to do, everyone. Like, this is why this assignment I'm giving us like a week and a half to do instead. Make sure you are reaching out and letting me know like what you're having a hard time with. If you're getting too much information, I can provide some help to you. But largely research, especially today, is sitting in front of the computer and clicking around and just getting some ideas in front of you. And then, like I said, you're going to come over and you're going to put it on that that document that I was showing you before. So let me stop sharing and say that that's kind of it. If you look at the website, there are a couple more databases on there. They work very similar. Similarly, so just, you know, kind of click around and play with those. The big thing I'm trying to get you to avoid is just going only to Google and putting things in that way. Like, you want to make sure that you're, you know, using these these academic databases as well. That's one of the things that we're teaching you. Okay, so that's what you're working on. So like I said, that evidence gathering document is going to be due your day of class the week of April 6th. So that's what you're working on. So there's nothing due on Sunday night of next week or anything like that. It's just that. And as always, if there are any questions, just like let me know. This is a new skill for a lot of you, so be patient and don't give up. If you're not finding what it is that you want to be finding, like, don't give up after trying for like 5 minutes. Like, you actually have to go through and do it. Also, please make sure you are reading the documents that I create for you. I do answer most of your questions as I'm creating them. So just make sure that you're reading them, and then any questions you have are probably answered there. Okay, that was a lot. Thank you so much for staying with me. Right now, go do a little bit of that clicking around yourself just so it gets in your brain, so that when you do come back to it when you're ready, you're ready to go. Okay, thanks so much.